Released 50 years ago this week, Pink Floyd Dark Side of the Moon is one of the largest selling records of all time, and it just continues to grow in popularity and legend. Today, I'm going to cover 5 reasons the Dark Side of the Moon lives up to all of that hype, coming right up. Hey, it's Russ from the Infectious Groove Podcast and here on YouTube. And The Dark Side of the Moon is one of those records that literally everyone has heard of. The album was a massive success upon release. It only grew from there. And it's one of those albums that even if you don't consider yourself to be a Pink Floyd fan, you probably know of the album, and there's probably something that you like on the album. So there's going to be a lot of hoopla and a lot of excitement around the fact that the record is now on 50 years after its initial release. So even if you're a huge Pink Floyd fan, or more for people who might be like, why? Why is this a big deal? I put together 5 reasons that I think are the reasons why it has gone on to be what it is. First and foremost is something that a lot of people might not think about. And it probably falls under the moniker of like, don't judge a book by its cover. But the artwork on The Dark Side of the Moon is just, it's super unique. It's intriguing. Somehow it gives you a inkling of what the album is when really the imaging has nothing to do with anything on the record. The way the album cover came about is great. Hypnosis came up with a whole bunch of different designs, and all 4 members of Floyd just agreed on the simplistic one. And it's just a piece of art that transcends the record. Like if someone looks at a prism, they know it's a reference to The Dark Side of the Moon. So the artwork is number 1. Number 2 for me is influence. There were concept albums before Pink Floyd released The Dark Side of the Moon, and Pink Floyd themselves had gone into different versions of concept pieces that ended up on records and whatnot. But after the massive success of The Dark Side of the Moon, literally every band, including like Kiss, at least tried to put out one concept album. And some bands had much better success with it than others. But even though it was the first big, huge album to really push through the barrier and have people, not just progressive rock fans, but people of all genres love, The Dark Side of the Moon is the one that just became the high watermark. Like anybody who tried to put out a concept album after The Dark Side of the Moon, people would always compare it to what influenced it to even be a thing in the first place. The third one, and you've heard me go on about this on the channel to a great extent, and for sure you've heard me go on about this on the Infectious Groove Podcast. The track listing and the sequencing of the record is nothing short of amazing. And I'm not just talking about how some of the songs fade into each other. I'm talking about how the overall vibe of the record follows a theme through the entire record from minute 1 all the way through to the end. And it's one of those albums that if you ever say, well, I'm going to listen to Breathe by Pink Floyd, you're most likely going to end up listening to On the Run and Time and on through the record. If you say you're going to listen to Money, you're probably going to listen to Money and Us and Them, because everything is just sequenced so well that you automatically want to hear the thing that follows it. The fourth reason why I think The Dark Side of the Moon has endured and why it lives up to all of the hype is the audio quality. There's a reason why The Dark Side of the Moon has been selling hi-fi audio systems for all 50 years that it's been out. If you yourself have worked in any sort of consumer electronics retail, or if you've ever purchased anything in consumer electronics retail, when you go look at sound systems, one of the first things they reach for is a copy of The Dark Side of the Moon. And because of the way the record was recorded, it's been able to transcend formats, like when DVD audio first came about, SACD, now Blu-ray audio. The record is able to be changed into so many different formats that it never becomes outdated. It never becomes a thing that people go, oh man, we used to use that, but we can't use that with this new tech. It's always able to sell people on equipment, whether or not they love the record, because of the audio quality. The last thing that I'm going to point out, and this for me is a huge one, a big, huge reason why The Dark Side of the Moon lives up to the hype that you've heard about for the past 50 years, is the lyrics. This is a Roger Waters thing. Roger was able to apply himself and become a fantastic lyricist. And some songs I mentioned earlier, like Breathe, Time, Money, Us and Them, even Brain Damage and Eclipse, all of the songs really get the point across very fast of what they're trying to accomplish with a song. So if you take a song like Money, where it's such a simple title of a song and could be a very simple process, and so much has been said about that topic, but really everything that needs to be said about it is said in the lyrics of that song. Or if you take a song like Time, when a young person hearing that song probably thinks, yeah, I do have my whole life ahead of me. And then you get somebody in their middle age starts hearing that song. It's kind of like Landslide by Fleetwood Mac, where the older that you get, the more you're like, oh, I totally get this. And Roger Waters wrote those lyrics as a very young man. And they have, over the past 50 years, continually reinvented themselves to everybody. So if you are wondering why this week there's all this hoopla and everybody going, wow, 50 years of The Dark Side of the Moon, which is totally understandable, I thought I'd just give you my 5 reasons why I think it lives up to the hype. What are your 5 reasons? Drop me a comment below. Let me know. Or if you think it doesn't live up to the hype, that's fine too. I want to hear about that. But I would love to interact with everybody in the comment section. As we always say in these videos, thank you so much for watching.